Hello and welcome to episode 264 of the Crate and Crowbar on the 28th of what I presume is November still. This year seems to go on forever. I am here with...
Alex.
And nobody else. This is a bit of a...
That's Tom, by the way.
Oh yeah.
It's just I.
And a disembodied voice is here with Alex.
We haven't got Chris here, so we've got bad quality audio.
Yeah, it's the microphones really that I would say contribute chiefly to the audio quality and not so much Chris. Chris does do a very good job editing. Various people are not available tonight, so it's just me and Alex, and we're doing it at my house, and the setup there is worse, objectively. So hopefully it's not too offensive to your ears.
Although what you must understand is that in the interests of kind of echo suppression, Tom has covered his coffee table in an extremely opulent-looking rug or blanket. So it feels like we're kind of royalty in many ways. We've got
I
drinks
just live like this.
laid out.
There's just velvet on everything in my house. We do have some... Actually, we do have kind of golden-looking beers, and we are drinking from chalices, it must be said.
They are literally chalices. I feel really good. Even if the listeners are suffering.
You can probably read this on YouTube, because we put our podcast on YouTube, and YouTube has like automatically generated captioning, which varies from hilariously surreal to quite good on some things.
What's been going on?
We don't really know. We think nothing.
Well, all I've seen of any kind of news for the past 8 to 16 weeks has been Black Friday deals. Yeah. So I don't know.
But I don't think we talked about Skin Deep before. And we should at least mention that, which is the next game from Brendan Chung, better known as Blendo Games, which is a... Did we talk about it? No, because we talked about Void Bastards.
Yeah, we did. I think it got invoked a little bit, but that's all.
Yeah. Anyway, Skin Deep is a first-person game about sneaking around the interior of a spaceship, which obviously pushes my buttons, and it's just full of... it feels like all the things Brendan has been wishing games would do for years, and they haven't. And it's all like silly ideas that would never make it into one of my games, because I'm always like, no, we've got to just do the absolute like essentials and get those done first. And Brendan's like, one of the first things he did on this game was add the ability to cough blood. Just as like a context menu option. You can just bring up like this radial menu that you'd usually use to like switch weapons or whatever, and one of the options is just cough blood, and it sprays blood onto the surface. And I don't actually know if there's like a gameplay value to that, but I think you can only do it after you've been like wounded. And that dialogue menu is also used to like threaten people, so you can kind of, it's not about straight up combat. There's sort of, you can like tell someone to drop their gun and that kind of thing. But I guess if you've been shot, that just becomes a cough blood option.
I mean, the other opportunity, like the only other way that you would just have it by default is that your character has lung disease.
Yeah.
And that's just
that would explain
how you roll.
You also, there's a sneeze meter. If you call through a vent, the dust in the vent causes a sneeze meter to slowly fill. And you can, if it fills, you sneeze and guards hear you in the vent, and that will be bad for you. But you can slow it down by stopping in the vent. So like it fills up faster as you're progressing through the vent, because obviously you're more particles per like second are getting into your nostrils. And if it's safe, if you know it's safe, then you might want to sneeze to like flush your system before the next stretch of sneeze-inducing vent.
It's like a series of film kind of ideas, isn't it? It's just sort of like what happens in action films.
Yeah, that so far no other game has bothered to simulate.
I think my favourite thing is the... in the narrow, sort of managing to brace yourself within a very narrow corridor.
Yeah, the Sam Fisher splits, which while you're doing it, you can still like move around in the corridor. Like I think you can certainly move back and forth. I think you can even move up and down. And then in the trailer that they shown, there's two guards coming down that corridor from opposite directions, and so he shoots one and then like bends underneath himself to shoot the other one, like turns upside down the corridor, which I'd love to see that from third person, because I'm not 100% clear on how it works.
Yeah, I showed my son it, and because he hasn't seen Die Hard. Maybe that's a problem. He should see Die Hard.
That is a
really
strong reference point for this game.
But he's not really familiar with these sort of fundamentally insane movie kind of, sort of stalwarts kind of things. He just thought it was, what is this game? Why is any of this happening? And for me, every one of them is this like perfect joke.
Yeah, it's very. You really never know what Brendan's going to do next, because he had done. It's such a weird mix. He's known initially for Gravity Bone, and later 30 Flights of Loving is in a similar vein, which are first-person narrative games where it's almost all narrative. There's not much kind of challenge to it, but the storytelling in it, the sort of the way he presents shots and cuts around between different times and characters and locations is amazing and beautifully stylish. And then Atom Zombie Smasher is like almost pure mechanics in a way. Like it has very strong theming, but it's so much like it's a tower defense game basically, and it's just a very particular vision of how one of those could work. And then Flotilla is this like strategy game in 3D that's also very mechanicsy. And then Quadrilateral Cowboy seemed like his first. For me, it was like the narrative stuff that was great in 30 Flights mixed with his passion for like interesting mechanics and cool tinkering and hacking and stuff. And he finally brought them together. And then this one, I don't know what his plans are. When I look at the trailer, I don't picture it being very story driven. I picture it being quite open and kind of replayable and more gamey than story-y. If story-y can be said. But I don't know. He might have something else in mind.
Yeah, it definitely. I think a lot of people would assume that it's lots of ships you're going on to, and it is that more of a procedural game. But then, yeah, like you said, he does flip between ideas and sort of bases for games, but then they're also joined up with the same. Like they're obviously made by one that person. Like you can see that the person who made Quadrilateral Cowboy also made this game, because so many little details. Like I'm thinking about the that little bug thing that you throw on the floor, and then you can control it through your deck. Because
the Weevil.
Yeah, so Quadrilateral Cowboy, if you haven't played it, which you should, it is a hacking game where you are infiltrating environments, levels, effectively, and you have a set of tools, and one of those tools is the Weevil, and most of the tools you're interfacing with a deck, like a little mobile computer, and you put down your Weevil, and then you type in your command line the instructions to start up the Weevil software, and then you can control it through on the screen, and you can see its video feed. But you're sort of steering it into little small spaces, and and there's jokes about like, isn't there like in Quadrilateral Cowboy there's a move you can do which kind of increases your you can squeeze through incredibly thin spaces.
Oh yeah, so there's cybernetic upgrades that you can get that mostly involve just kind of ripping off your existing limbs and replacing them with something, or taking out your whole skeleton, I think, for that one.
Yeah.
And lets you squeeze through very narrow slots.
Yeah, I think, his new game kind of plays in the same way, completely fast and loose with physical realities.
Yeah. It's going to be good. What have you been playing, Alex?
I've been dipping into Bad North. Which is a Viking.
Weirdly a Discord exclusive for a while, wasn't it?
It was, wasn't it? Yeah. Well, it came out on Switch first, like maybe 4 months ago or something, 4 months ago. And then, Discord. Hey, chat and buy games. Yeah, so Bad North, it's like a medieval kind of a game where you are a bunch of soldiers on an island, like with kind of atmospherically kind of sort of Scandinavian, Faroes Islandy kind of names. And you are defending them from marauding Vikings, and the Vikings come in on longboats from out of the mist that's around your island, and they kind of appear and they kind of move on a trajectory onto the shores of your island, and your object is to prevent them from destroying all the buildings on your island, because each of the buildings you can save will give you coins, and the coins will allow you to upgrade your units, sort of military units. And it's sort of, the overall structure is a bit like FTL, where the Vikings...
Everything's like FTL.
Yeah, everything's... So the structure is like, the Vikings are coming from sort of the left-hand side of this sort of the map. It's coming from the west, those Western Vikings...
It's coming from the left.
And they're kind of sweeping along and kind of subsuming for every a turn. What do you call it? Like when you play a mission, then you have to kind of sort of rest your soldiers, and then while they're resting, the Vikings will kind of sort of take some more islands.
Metagame turn.
Yeah, and though that once an island is taken by the Vikings, you can't access it anymore. You can't sort of go on there, so you're basically moving eastwards with the Vikings chasing after you, and your life is your soldiers, because once a unit of soldiers is defeated, it is gone forever. And there are certain islands as you're going along which will give you more soldiers, or might afford you items that you can give to your soldiers. Like there's a hammer, for instance, which kind of gives you an ability to do kind of a big smash on the ground. If you select that unit, select the ability, and then tap on select the square that you want to go for, to deal extra damage. So once that's lost, it's gone forever, and you've basically got to survive as long as you can, or to get to the end, which I have not got to. In fact, there may not be an end. There surely is an end. All the islands are procedurally generated, and the units of soldiers is where the kind of delight comes in, because they are a little sort of phalanx of little figures, and they rush about and they fight for you. It's very much like, it really reminds me of Populous, that has that sort of feel where every individual is modelled and simulated, and you can see them running around, and they're really sort of characterful. So in a level, normally you see this longboat coming in out of the mist, and you get your swordsman unit, and you click on it, and then you click on the square at the shore where the longboat is going to come in, and they wait there, and then as soon as the longboat comes in, the soldiers longboards, it's like some surfers. When the surfers arrive, your soldiers will do this. Like there's a little moment usually where they sort of step back, and you kind of go, are they scared? Are they going to do anything? And then they leap in, and you can see the fight happening, and it's being simulated. It's not sort of Civilization style. A dice has been rolled, and now you're watching a little animation to kind of sort of show you the results of the roll. But this is like, it's being simulated in real time. And there are various different types of units. There are swordsmen. Swordsmen are great for melee, believe it or not.
No way.
But they also have shields, and shields is what you need against enemy archers.
Right.
There are archers, and they've got these fantastically inaccurate arrows, which are nice and huge. So like when you're zoomed out on your island, because the island is basically, your view sort of rotates around the middle of the island.
It's got a very like diorama kind of look.
Very
to it,
diorama,
like,
yeah.
You wanna 3D print it and have it on your desk.
Yeah, they're all really lovely little little sort of Scandi islands, sort of craggy, but kind of blobby craggy. Can you have blobby craggy? Is that a thing? Probably is.
They found a way.
But the arrows are huge, and you watch them kind of sort of sail right over the heads of the things you need to kill, and you go, oh god! But then they land in the water, and they go, like, you can hear them plopping. And
nice.
So, and then there are pikes or spears. Probably pikes is probably the word. and they are really defensive. So you kind of have to use them to anticipate where the enemy are going to be, because they will stand there and they will kind of poke them out, towards the enemy, and they are very strong in that defensive thing. But as soon as you move them, if the enemy has got around you, your pike are now useless. So it's kind of all up to the swords to clean up. So it's really simple sort of setup, but you're having to adapt to the fact that like these Vikings keep coming in and coming in. I actually thought it seemed really easy as I was starting, and I played for I played for an hour, and just wasn't really kind of finding a huge amount of challenge. It's really enjoyable because watching them pathfind around the island is just delightful, because it's this little bunch and they're kind of eagerly kind of doing what you ask them to.
How many people do you have in a unit?
I think that it starts out at something like 10, like 8 or 10.
Okay, so quite big.
Yeah, but then
to,
kind of
Warhammer.
Yeah. But like by you can upgrade the size of your unit, so you can get up to something like 12 or sort of 16 or something. I can't remember. But and the coins you're putting into them kind of really upgrade them. What I don't sort of what I just I came up against a level where I wasn't really paying attention. Hubris had hit me, and you can decide how many units you commit to an island, because for every mission or every island you put your units into, they need a turn to rest. And by this point, I had 6 units kind of that I'd collected, and I thought I'd send 3 into this one, and then I can send 3 into another one without spending a turn, and therefore letting the Vikings catch up. Therefore, I'll be quids in, earning coins. And that hadn't been a problem until now. And I was taken apart, and they slaughtered me.
So then you lost those 3 units?
Those 3 units are gone, completely gone. Because once you're on the island, there's no getting out. Like, it's either like total loss or you get out, sort of there isn't this sort of, you can't sort of just go okay like, we'll back out now. We've lost one, but but this one
that should be an option. I feel like abandon the island but keep your men.
I think it's thematically it kind of fits, because they're on an island. Like, they are trapped on an island, and you're going to have to see that you've committed your troops onto this island. The Vikings have come.
Look, here's my strategy is, can we just all go around the circumference of the island and come back to the Vikings' boats while they're still chasing us, and then steal them and go away?
That's the point. That would have been really good. That'd have been,
or their longboards.
Get to surf out into the distance.
I think that's how surfing works.
Is a longboard actually like some sort of I'm thinking roller skate? I'm really cool because I really know what all these terms are. I'm going to give up on this.
Are you saying it's like a skateboard?
Yes, I am. That's what I was groping for.
I think there's a skateboard longboard, but I think there's also a surfboard longboard.
Okay, that's good. That's good, because that's good. I'm really up on my my gnarly,
See, I know
gnarly activities. But I lost all 3. Like my swordsman went first, but then I had pikemen and archers. And like pikemen and archers are great, but it's situationally and fundamentally suddenly I was unable to react to the fact that 3 longboats came in from 3 directions, and it's nothing I could do, and they wiped me out. So I'm now having to kind of address the rest of the game with 3 units, and which feels viable. Punitive. Like, it feels scary because fuck, I literally can't, but it's a game where you kind of, we'll start again, or you'd persevere and then with the knowledge that you're going to start again.
It feels like a bit of a flaw to me in that the lesson I take away from this is, when I play this, I'll just never experiment or push the envelope or try anything other than just all people and all missions always, because the stakes are so high that your one little experiment, it seems like it might have scotched your whole campaign.
There's definitely, I can see that the way that the Vikings are sweeping in from the west, there are probably going to be situations where, because the islands are interconnected, so you can't when you take an island, when you kind of like play a mission on an island, the adjacent islands are now available, so you can go to those ones, and some of the routes, you know, that sort of open up as you're traveling east, mean that you've got to have made your way up to the northern edge so you can get around to the sort of the next island. And that situation will mean that you might be in a situation where you can't, you're going to need to commit a small number of troops in order to, you know, not give away the turn, so that they won't take. Just, I'm not explaining this very well, but yeah, you know, you don't want them to sweep in and then cut you off from the only route forward.
Yeah.
But it's I've only played sort of, you know, for probably about an hour and a half now. But just the delight. It's basically a one-hand game. Like you click here and you click there. You know, you
would it work well on a touchscreen? Yeah,
totally. So from what I read, I haven't played the Switch version, but it is one of the few Switch games which is better on the touchscreen than on the TV with a pad. And I can certainly feel. I haven't tried it with a pad, but having played it with a mouse, I don't really like the idea of having to kind of, you know, use a pad to kind of select, you know, sort of work your way through all this sort of the squares to get to places. Yeah, I
played on Switch briefly, but only with the gamepad. I don't think I knew it had touchscreen controls, and yeah, it wasn't. I got a little way into it and then thought I don't want to be playing this on a gamepad.
yeah. But
I'm interested in the metagame stuff because, like, pushback from the enemy force is something that has rarely been done well in the metagame layer. Like Dark Crusade kind of famously fucked it up. Other than that game was near perfect. But that was the
Tell me how it fucked it up. So, like, Dark Crusade, I never played the first time round, and then I actually sat down and played it about 3 months ago, and then I got completely wasted by chaos out of the blue, and I don't know how to come back from it.
I do love that game to death, and I played all of the subsequent ones. And wait, was there only one more after that? Maybe there was. But the thing that was tedious about it was that you would take a territory, so you play like map X, and you win it, and then an enemy force invades that territory on the metagame, and you just play map X again. Like, you just took it. And it's either you surrender that territory or you play that exact same map again. And it's like, you could fix that. You could make it so that they never invade the territory you just took, which would be, I can't quite think why they didn't fix that. But it's always going to be a bit of a drag to like fight on a battlefield you already fought on. Like, unless the situation is drastically different.
But does it not take the opportunity to change some of the things around? Like, because you might have taken it originally from one of the other factions, or they might have a base in another part of the level. They could surely kind of sort of mix some things around.
Yeah, it would. As I remember it, you like started in the same location as you did when you were taking the territory.
Really?
Which you had like, if you own the territory, you start with a bunch of stuff. So you have some like turrets and some buildings already made. But I think you started from the same starting location. But also, it just, I don't know. It was all the maps were the multiplayer maps. Like, these very symmetrical artificial arenas, and I didn't mind that at all, because I just wanted, like, my eternal complaint with all strategy campaigns is like, just let me play a normal fucking game of this game. Like, I like the game. Let me just play it where, like, I start and the enemy starts at the same time. We both have to build our base and then we both have to attack. Rather than, here's a scripted scenario where the enemy has a magic train and you have 3 units and you must destroy the 3rd compartment by Tuesday. So I loved that it was just like, here's like, it's just the fucking skirmish maps. We haven't made any special ones, just like, I mean, they did, but they made them so they're symmetrical and so that any starting location works, and the enemy, if you're attacking their stronghold, it's a special mission, and I think in some scenarios they will have like more defense, or there'll be multiple enemy bases or whatever, but it was still by and large just like play a match of an RTS, and I really like that. But it did mean that if you're playing the same map again, I suppose that would be even worse if they're scripted missions, but
back to the train by Tuesday.
Yeah, and then FTL has the rebellion chasing you, which does work. That's almost like the sort of hunger mechanic from roguelikes and the ghost from Spelunky, right? It works, but it doesn't really feel like an actual enemy.
Yeah, it's very abstract, isn't it? Yeah. I think that Bard North definitely gets around that by the fact that you see the enemy. Like this, it is literally the enemy that keeps coming after you. But it's the effect of the watch coming after you is weirdly abstract, because that's not what kills you. It's what happens to you in the levels that is what kills you. And it does cause you to take risks, because you're anxious to earn coins, and you can only earn coins by running missions. But then whenever you run a mission, you're going to be spending turns and therefore losing islands to the Vikings. And so that is a sort of a loop that works, but it's strange that the thing that kills you isn't actually the FTL style, well, now you've been caught up and it's over.
Yeah.
Because you're not physical on the map, I should say. Yeah, you're kind of... It's just, you can't see yourself. You don't how you aren't kind of embodied, yeah. But it's so delightful just moving stuff around and watching stuff happen, like sticking archers up on the cliff and seeing them fire down, and seeing the sort of the eager way that the pikes kind of point towards the enemy, and kind of.
I was following this on Twitter for years, just because I think I was already following the artist. His first name I think is Oscar, but I don't know his surname.
Oscar Stallberg.
Ah, yes, that sounds right. And he was posting GIFs of this, and they always look beautiful. And I was always thinking, I'm definitely going to get this when it comes out.
Yeah. No, it's really sort of delightful, but it's kind of grim as well, which I quite like. Actually, I think Chris Donlan in his review for Eurogamer sort of pointed out the kind of the grimness of the theming, with the kind of like the levels almost look like there's lovely little kind of dioramas you kind of want to kind of 3D print it. Lovely. Yeah. What have you been
playing? Many things, most of which I've already talked about, but tough. So Hitman, last time I spoke about it, I played all of the missions, but just like once each, and not to a great standard. And I was saying the game didn't really work that way. And the game itself seems to have mixed feelings about whether it's a story-driven thing that you should play the next level when you finish level before, or whether you should be replaying levels as soon as just play all of level 1 every possible way, then move on to level 2. And obviously it's up to you. I did what felt natural, which was play each level once, and it wasn't that great. But it wasn't I wasn't thinking oh, these levels suck or anything. It was just the once through experience is very much muddling your way through, not really knowing what's going on, and then you do it, mostly through saving and loading, and you just kind of progress without really getting to the depth of it. I thought, okay, well now what I do is I just play each level as if it's the only level in the game and just thoroughly explore it. And I tried that with Miami, which is the race course level. And your target is on the racetrack when you start, and she's doing laps. And at a certain point, the way the level normally works is at a certain point, you're told, oh, the race is entering its final lap. And if you want to kill her, you could just take a sniper rifle and shoot her out of her car. Or there's ways to kind of sabotage the race mid-race. But lots of the ways of killing her involve waiting for the race to be over, but preparing something ahead of time. Like the chalice that she drinks from, if she wins, you could poison that. But then you have to make sure she wins, because actually she does quite badly normally. So you have to rig it so that the other guy doesn't do as well.
When you say normally, are her fortunes entirely in your hands as to what you kind of sabotage?
Yes, yeah. I believe she always loses if you don't intervene. Yeah. And if you intervene, you can sabotage. You know who's going to win. You're pretty much, you don't even have to let it play out the first time. You're told it looks really bad for her. This other guy who she's up against seems unbeatable. And all of that is to say that I got 50-60% of the way through all of the challenges for this level, which is kind of how I like to explore a level, is just do all the challenges, because they're all reading the challenges reveals all these interesting things that you can do, and then setting out to do them, you discover even more about the level, and it starts to feel like, oh, everything here has a purpose, and it's this really cool puzzle. But all of the challenges that involve getting her after she finishes the race, or setting something up so that in time for her to finish the race, I am not able to get, because I now have a glitch where the race just ends immediately. Like I take 10 steps from the starting location and it says 47, the race is entering its final lap. 47, the race is ended. Like just like that.
What?
Sometimes it even says 47, the race is ended. 47, the race is entering its final lap. And it's not just the announcement; it really has ended. Like she's finished, and there's no way to get to. I can't poison that chalice in 10 steps. Like, it can't be done. So that mission is just basically bugged out, and I can't.
And this is like when you started from scratch.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. In fact, because I'm actually playing on PC instead of PS4 for this. I started on PS4 and now I've switched to PC because all my friends are playing on PC and they're all getting competitive over leaderboards. Like Phil Savage and Sam Roberts, a PC gamer, have been competing over this. And I know just from the way they're talking about it that I'm never going to be on their level. But I think I have like 8 friends playing Hitman 2 on PC, and that's enough that I'm interested where I fall in that. If it was only those 2, I'd be like, oh, fuck it, because they're always going to be above me. But if there's 8, maybe I'll be in the top 4. I don't know. Which is, it puts even more emphasis on the way Hitman scores missions, which is a problem I have with these current iterations, where it's silent assassin or nothing. Like, you just do it the exact way we have in mind, or you fucked up. But anyway, so I can't do it for Miami, so I moved on to Santa Fortuna, which is the Colombian level, and I've got nearly all the challenges for that now, and yeah, it's great. It feels I'm getting now what I got out of the previous Hitman, which is like just this huge interconnected puzzle where there's something going on in every little part of it, and there's kind of every conversation actually relates to something that you can do or see or find out. There's one of the things I haven't done is there's a bunch of people talking about some kind of hidden treasure in this level, and I haven't found that yet. But other things like just an enigmatic achievement about making the hippo happy. Like, okay, there's a hippo. And then I go and find the hippo, and I'm like, what would make the hippo happy? Why is the hippo happy? And then, of course, there's a note about the hippo's psychology, and there's a hippo whisperer who's trying to make the hippo happy, and there's a backstory about how that was hired and why the target cares about them so much. And there's a whole thing. I mentioned before that a lot of the levels in this are references to, especially Blood Money and other games in the series. I think 3 of them are references to Blood Money levels. Like the whole level is a reference to a previous level. And this one, you're assassinating one of the Delgado family, and the Delgados are in the first proper mission of Hitman Blood Money. You're assassinating 2 of them,
right?
And there's a scene like Rico Delgado has a whole like personal museum to himself in his house, where you can like the first baseball bat he killed someone with is in a glass case, and there's a bottle of wine from his cousin's vineyard or his uncle's vineyard, and that's the guy you killed in Blood Money. And I didn't know this when I just rushed through the level, but now that I play it more thoroughly, there's a whole conversation he has with one of the henchmen where he shows him around this gallery and talks about each individual thing. And he talks about the wine. He talks about how he knows. It's canon, by the way, that you killed those 2 people in Blood Money in a way that looked like an accident, which was possible. And I did do that run once. And he says, the reporter's an accident, and the henchman says it's a tragedy, and he says, no, it was criminal. I know it was an assassin, and I'm closing in on who it is, and when I find out, the vengeance is going to be sweet. So that's a nice.
That is very nice.
And it's full of stuff like that. There's so much that it all means something. It all hooks up to other things.
It's so. The fact that it's not obvious to start with is either great or terrible, and I'm not quite sure. Because that structure of the old game, the Blood Money and 2 and whatever, they all were joined up by a story, which I always interpreted as you'd play each level once, but you're not really meant, you shouldn't really, because you are meant to kind of go back and revisit and investigate and experiment.
It would all be different if just that rating system changed, and they don't even need to take out the current rating system. Just make that, like what they're rating you on right now is kind of a stealth metric. It's just how cleanly and silently and invisibly did you do this. And that just that necessitates certain tactics. You have to keep using this pacify move to anyone you want to get out of the way. You're not allowed to kill them, so you have to do this. So all of the lethal weapons are almost irrelevant to the game. Half the challenges relate to things that violate the silent assassin criteria. So doing those is purely like a kind of curio on the way. Like it wouldn't make sense to do this on your first run because the game's just going to tell you did it wrong. You'll just get 0 stars and it'll say you fucked up because you did this thing that that we told you to do in the challenges. And they could just do that. They could have that rating system, and that's the Silent Assassin rating system. And then below that, there's the psychopathy rating system, and below that there's the style rating system, and below that there's the achievements rating. Like, I would settle for one that was just like, wow, you did like 5 different challenges on that one run. Like, you managed to feed this guy to the hippo while shooting this guy in the head and pushing this guy off the balcony, and those are 3 different stylish deaths. And so you get both a bonus for doing 3 different challenges, and you get like a variety bonus because you did them all in different ways and that kind of thing. And there are, like, you can get points for those things, but the rating just tells you did it wrong. No, you fucked up.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? Because I keep wondering why there has to be some sort of extrinsic sort of rating system at all, when actually when you're playing, like the delight in seeing one of your plans come together, or to see the game recognise that there's some sort of intricate system that you've discovered and that you can kind of play into, and that was never visible when the first time you played it through. That it feels that those sorts of things, maybe rewarded by the challenge system, should be the fundamental, like the psychopathy, rating is one thing, but like why kind of give them of some sort of class, as a result, of what you do.
And as I say, the leaderboards have added extra pressure now to just do the Silent Assassin thing, because that's how you're rated. It's just it's just how quickly did you do Silent Assassin. So it's both, you must do Silent Assassin to really be competitive at all, and then once you do, everything depends on how fast did you do that. And that's not that interesting to me, really. Like, there's a certain, I'll do it on every mission. I'll get Silent Assassin on every mission ultimately. But the other thing is, because you unlock stuff as you play, like you level up in general and you get access to new weapons that way. But for each location, you also have a location mastery thing that goes up to level 20. And like I say, I've done nearly every challenge for Santa Fortuna, and I'm level 17 out of 20 mastery. And that means I haven't unlocked the starting location that's inside the mansion.
Right.
And so there's kind of no point in me trying to be competitive on the Silent Assassin ratings, because I'm pretty sure that's the best place to start, to be closest to the best disguise, and even if it's not, I need to try it to find that out, right? And so all this time that I'm playing, I'm not bothering with Silent Assassin. I'm not even thinking about it, because now that I have to optimize for score, it's not worth me trying to do that until I have all the tools at my disposal, which I don't get till I hit level 20 of mastery, which means doing all the challenges. And the challenges, I talked about this with Hitman season 1, but it's this weird thing where you don't have to do them in a successful run. You just, once you've done the challenge, you just load it on save game and then do a different challenge. Like, if it's like 3 different ways to kill the same person, you just save just before you kill them, and then you do it the 3 different ways, and then reload a different save. And then I kept a save that's like me standing next to a speedboat after I've killed the 3 in not a very interesting way. And every time I've done some more challenges, I'll load that save game, get in the speedboat, and that's when it all registers and it all unlocks the new stuff, which is very weird that I have to do that. I don't mind it. It's not too annoying, but it's kind of strange that that's how it works. And so I did the elusive target, which is Sean Bean this time.
Yeah. Which mission is that in?
It's just its own mission. Oh, sorry, it's Miami.
Miami, right.
Yeah. Hopefully they're going to do like 1 per mission, go through the game, because Miami's the first one. I would actually be interested in a elusive target on the tutorial level, because it's this like mansion on a beach, and it's big enough and it has enough to it that it could still be an interesting mission. But anyway, this one is like, man, they had a budget for this elusive target, because it's a significant amount of Sean Bean dialogue. He tours the whole facility. There's special like NPCs just for this mission. Like, there's a pre-arranged rendezvous with someone who can get you into a meeting with him, who is called like James Reddy, and I don't know if he's called Reddy because you go to him when you're ready to do the mission. It just struck me as an interesting choice of surname. That is elusive targets and contracts, actually. I want to talk about the contracts later. Don't let you save or load. And elusive targets makes a lot of sense, because it's like this one-shot thing. It's like a daily challenge, basically.
So you get to play it tomorrow, like the next day, if you
Sorry,
fail.
no, it's not like daily challenge in that way. I just mean it's like it's a one-shot thing.
Right.
If you fuck it up, you fucked it up forever. Yeah. If you succeed, you've succeeded forever. There is no saving loading.
That's a lot of content for a one shot.
It is, yeah. It's interesting to stick to their guns on that, because they could do what a lot of games do with the daily challenge, which is your first shot counts.
Yeah.
But after that, you can replay just for fun and you know, just see how you do. But they've really stuck to their guns. You cannot replay this at all after your first attempt, even if you just take 10 steps and die for some reason. Like, tough. You'll never see Sean Bean in this game. And I did time limited events in Heat Signature, and I really backed off on them each time we did them and made them more and more generous, and eventually made them. Well, I probably just won't do them again because people get really stressed about them. I was really surprised. We were doing a much more relaxed version than Hitman was, but some people were really stressed out about. Oh God, I'm going to miss it because I'm away that weekend, and even when it was like 2 weeks long, we had people stressing out about that. So I'm sure they must have way worse, because you get like there's permanent unlocks that you can never get again. Like there's a special item you get for doing this elusive target successfully, that if you fuck it up or if you fail to do it, you don't play the game that time, you'll just never get that item. Which is absolutely people's like stress point with these kinds of things. So it meant that the rendezvous with the guy, Mr. Ready, who will take you up to the boardroom when you're ready. You're not ready unless you have some kind of disguise. Like he's not too fussy about what it is, but it has to be like a security guard or a bodyguard or like a scientist or a couple of other things. And I didn't have one of those. And so I went into the aquarium bit to try and like knock someone out, but I couldn't get, there was no one on their own. So I had to like do the distraction thing, and it took me a little while. And then when I got back to Mr. Ready, I walked up to him, and then when I reached him to press use on him, he started saying, oh, screw this isn't worth risking the contract for, and stormed off, like, while I'm standing right there in the right disguise. I must have been like half a second too late to actually like press use on him before he said that. And so even though I'm standing right there, he storms off, and then the opportunity's lost.
You missed Sean Bean?
Yeah. No, I missed the opportunity to get the meeting with Sean Bean,
I see.
which is just one way into
Okay.
there. But actually, I ended up just like, I can't remember how exactly, but I got a bodyguard disguise. I think maybe there might be a bodyguard downstairs, or I maybe just climbed up the pipe and got in there. And I ended up doing the mission in what I think is a very stylish and cool way, and it actually kind of felt not entirely clean, but kind of my own personal like failure state is if anyone shoots at me. Like if someone actually fires a gun at me, even if it doesn't hit, even if I only take a minor amount of damage, I kind of feel like, oh, I fucked this up. In a single player, that's when I'd usually... Oh, sorry.
Yeah, because as soon as someone shoots, like that's everybody
I could have died then.
Yeah. Exactly, you could have died and everybody's after
therefore,
you.
my strategy was bad.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen. And I did it, like... My favourite way to kill anyone in Hitman is to throw a knife at them. I'll do that if I possibly can. I love throwing knives in games. I love throwing knives, especially in Hitman. And in some Hitman games, it's a really good strategy because it's almost completely silent. Like, unless someone's literally looking at the person, you sometimes just get away with it because they weren't looking in the right direction at the right time. And this was an especially cool one because I did go to the meeting in the end. I had the bodyguard disguise, and that gets you into the room. And once you're in the room, it doesn't matter who you are. You just sit in the seat, and like Sean Bean talks to you as if you're someone who's supposed to be at this meeting. And he does this very contrived thing of like,
what is Sean Bean meant to be in this?
He is a famously unkillable assassin who has been like confirmed dead like 5 different times, and he keeps going back from the grave somehow. But he is also an assassin himself, so he is planning an assassination. And Kronstadt, who are like the racing company who are owned by the two people who are there to kill normally, are helping him. They're like supplying him with weapons and stuff, and so he must be paying them, I guess. And so they are treating him as a VIP, and he has bodyguards, and they're showing him all their coolest kit. And this meeting is, I think they're discussing the target that he's going to kill, and very incongruously, he suddenly turns to you and says, let's do a thought experiment. How would you kill me if you had to kill me right now, just in this room? And you have this like semi-interactive thing. This is what I mean when I said I had a budget, because like there's basically a mini game for answering this question, because there's no dialogue system in Hitman. You can't choose your answer, but instead, whatever you look at in the room, it pops up with like a prompt to talk about that thing. And so again, incongruously, there's a kitchen knife on the conference room table. Don't really know why. So I looked at that and I said, I'd take that knife and I'd throw it at you. And then he said, okay, but that would have all these kinds of risks and yada, yada, yada. And then give me your next idea.
Then gaze at the guillotine in the corner.
So there's a bunch of other things in the room, but I just decided, no, that's how I'm going to kill you. So I just stood up from the chair and walked out the room, which I thought was kind of a, like, in fiction, a really sinister fucking thing to happen. And as an assassin, kind of a stylish thing to do. And then he went off and looked at the labs, and I followed him around the labs. I kind of tailed him everywhere just as if I was part of his retinue, because I looked just like his bodyguards. And then he eventually circled all the way back down to the conference room. And as he went in, I found a window to I already had the knife. I just threw the knife in the back of his head. And people saw him die. I think somebody saw me from across the room, like a civilian saw me do it across the room. But I just bolted out of the room immediately. So nobody fired a shot, and nobody knew where I was after I left. And I just ran straight to the exit. And it felt so cool. And then the result was like 0 stars.
Come on, what about the poetry?
Noticed,
Come on.
kill, spotted, body found, a security camera saw me, like just fail.
Oh, come on. That was too beautiful. You could at least have flagged you'd indicated that item and used that item.
And refuse to give any alternatives. So I'm not even going to give you 3 options. I'm going to tell you exactly how I'm going to kill you.
Does it make it, like, is Sean Bean, i.e. Sean Bean, like the person Sean Bean,
no, he has,
is that a reference? Like, is it sort of like, oh, you tend to die a lot in all the things you're in. All right, so that's one of the jokes.
Yeah, the fact that he's like the unkillable is a reference to how often he gets killed and everything else.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's not playing Sean Bean, if that's what you're asking. He does have like an in-fiction name.
What's his accent?
I really hope, in fact, the next elusive target is just Sean Bean again. It's just like, no, he's still not dead. He fucked it up.
That would be good.
He's every single elusive target in the whole series is just like 7 of him.
If you could come up with the reason how he didn't die from your attempt as well, although that might
He's
be
immune
a
to
little
kitchen
challenge.
knives.
Yeah. My kitchen knife proof vest.
Which also absorbs half a kitchen knife to make it look convincing.
So, and is that time limited? Like, you get one chance at it, but is the elusive target like in season 1 where it was only available?
I think it runs out in less than a week now.
Fuck.
So when you're hearing this, you might only have like a day or 2 left, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do. I mean, there's a lot of me that likes the idea of the time pressure, and there's a lot of me that is absolutely fucking, kind of...
There is... one thing I'll say in its favour is that you've got to improvise if something goes wrong, which usually in normal play you don't. And it's... I talked about this last time, my friend Jack is much more interested in improvising and rolling with it, and I'm much less so. I'm like, well, now it's a shooter and I don't like it as a shooter. But there is some middle ground where like, fuck, this has gone totally wrong, but if I slip around here and I just change into a mechanic's costume, I'm just going to shoot this fucking guy in the head. The moment that I kind of like that in Hitman that only comes up if you're forced to improvise is everyone's shooting at me, I burst into a room, there's just one guy in there, and I just fucking shoot him, and I take his clothes, and there's nowhere to hide the body, there's no time to hide the body, and I just move on. And I'm just like, well, they're going to find a naked waiter, and they're going to know for sure who they're looking for. But for these 10 seconds, this waiter outfit will get me somewhere. And actually, I think information seems to spread a bit less dramatically than it used to in the olden days. The way I remember it working is if they find the body of the person you're dressed as, you are blown for everyone everywhere.
Right.
And now it doesn't feel like that. If you're on the other side of the level, people are buying your disguise.
Yeah, the information hasn't percolated across.
Yeah. I'd be really interested to know exactly how that works on the back end.
Yeah.
It's a difficult challenge, because if you make it too good, it feels like there's no point in continuing to play. But if you make it too bad, then it's really exploitable.
But if you kind of model it, I'm sure it would never feel understandable. If you kind of actually modelled a character talking to another, and that means that it would have, the confirmation was, it would just be pointless for a player, because you'd never know it, you'd never see it.
So I played around a bit with contracts, which is the mode where you play one of the existing levels, but you mark who the targets are, and then you kill them however you want, and after you've finished it, you then get to set that as a challenge for other players, and you can only challenge them to do things you did, but you don't have to challenge them to do everything you did. So if you manage to do it without being spotted, that's an optional condition you can put on the mission, or you can take it off if you think it's too harsh. So I created one that you can play if you're playing on PC. The way to find it is to search for the word unrelated. It's called Unrelated Workplace Accidents. And it's there's the construction site area of Santa Fortuna, which is, it's strangely isolated, and it's not that relevant to the main game. You certainly don't need to go there to kill any of the 3 targets. There's certain ways you can kill one of the targets there. But it's nicely kind of self-contained, and it has a lot of ways to make people die in accidents. So I just picked 2 people and I killed them in accidents. And that mode, I'm quite interested in it now, because I played it early on in Season 1 and it just failed for me utterly, because everything interesting I could do to somebody wasn't tracked as a possible kill method. So if you push someone off a cliff, it would just say any weapon. It doesn't know how, it can't register what you did. And also back then there were no playstyle restrictions. You could say what disguise they're to be wearing, but you couldn't say don't let yourself get spotted or that kind of thing. And now those restrictions are in there too. And that makes it way more interesting. It's still the sort of like the infrastructure for like browsing these and finding them is very opaque. It's like they have lots of options for how you filter them, but it's not really clear. You can't really get a sense for one of these things without just playing it. And so it's just filled with loads that just have kind of like half-written names or just generic default names, and it's not clear what the idea behind the mission is, what the concept is. And there might be some interesting stuff in there, but I don't know because I can't tell. But
you get to write a description, though, don't you? That would be the tell, I think.
Yeah, so it's slim pickings, to be honest. If you get away the descriptions, there are some that are like they're sort of trying to ape the style of the game and say, "Welcome to Miami 47," yada yada.
Come on,
it doesn't quite work. And then the only one I saw that seemed like it had some thought behind it was unfortunately rather unsavoury, which was it's called Killing Serially, and it's just like the one I saw was like on this particular mission, kill these 4 targets all with the fibre wire. And the concept is like, oh, you're like a serial killer, so you have this modus operandi that you use over time, but they're all women. And then I saw another one called with the same title but a different location, and they're all women again. I'm like, oh no, I think this is a guy who just really wants to kill women over and over again. I mean, sure, that's the best thing serial killers do. They have a type sometimes, but
I don't want.
It makes it a little bit distasteful.
I don't want to.
It's already. I mean, the game is already borderline unhealthy. It's not a great thing you're doing.
What? So when you're playing that mission to set it up, were you making choices like you think, oh, this one?
I was, yeah. It's much easier to do this than it is for the people who do it after you, even though they're doing the same thing, because you get to decide retroactively who you intended to kill. Yeah. So it's like this is setting up the accidents in the construction site is all about getting someone to stand in one particular location, and the target who you can kill there in the normal mission walks to these locations. She's literally given a tour of the most dangerous places to stand at the construction site, and so you just have your pick. You can do whatever you like, but to get NPCs to stand there is a little bit trickier. You've got to kind of move them there somehow. And so one trick you can do is you can place a coin on the ground. Like coins, you can throw them and they make a noise and distract people. But if you place them, that has a different use because people don't hear it land. So like the guy around the corner who you don't want to come won't hear and won't come. But someone whose patrol route takes them past this location will see it on the ground and then walk to that exact spot to pick it up. Yeah. And if that's below a giant crate, for example. The challenge in mine is that the 2 people you have to kill are both guards. They're not construction workers. And the guards, I'm pretty sure on their patrols don't normally go near these things. But if you know the mechanics of Hitman well, there's a way to distract specifically a guard to stop somewhere. And if a civilian sees it, they won't be distracted, or they will be, but they'll get a guard to go and do it for you.
So there's your hint.
Yeah. So I did do that. Like this is how because I was actually aiming to kill Noahs, the ones who have the dot above their head, because they know that you're not really them. And I think the two guys that you have to kill in my mission are both, they're called enforcers is what the game calls them. I think they both are those people. So I was trying to...
What do you call them? Knowers?
Knowers. This is Jack's word, because they know.
Knowers. No, it's okay. I was with the N-O-E-R-S, and I was thinking, that's no.
They do say no to them. They're quite negative as people.
But as opposed, knowledges.
I like, there's one mission where, like, the knowers just know no matter what you're wearing. Like, there's some people who are on the lookout for assassins, and so they just always can see through your disguise.
Oh, it's a chef. It's got to be an assassin.
And Colombia is an awkward one because a lot of the people you're impersonating are specific people, and none of them are white. Like, you're almost always impersonating somebody who is not white. In one case, another baffling one is you can knock out and impersonate one of the few white people you can impersonate is a tattoo artist. He is heavily tattooed, and when you take his disguise, you have the tattoos. And I'm very unclear on how that works. Did I just do these? When I take it off, I don't have the tattoos. So, is he wearing fake sleeves, even though he's a tattoo artist? It's a confusing game in many ways. But yeah, I am enjoying it now a lot more than I did the first time through, and I will continue to just play each mission thoroughly, except Miami, until I fucking fix Miami.
Do you remember when you played Blood Money first? Like, do you remember the first play experience?
I mean,
like the context. Were you a PC gamer then? Was that before it?
That's a good question. Can't remember. I think it might have been early PC gamer days for me. I think I was living in my first flat in Bath. So yeah, God, it would have been a really long time ago, like more than 10 years, I think. And I don't remember for sure how I played it, but I think what I did was I obsessed over my first run through, so I wouldn't even like turn in the mission until I had one I was happy with. But then I remember the thing that I loved about it was, for one thing, it was much more of a surprise that you could replay these missions over and over, because the previous games you could a bit, but it didn't support it quite so well. And I would just like come up with an idea for a concept for how assassinations could be done, and then I'd do every single mission in the game that way. Like, one of them was always the sniper rifle, always shoot them in the chest, and never change out of your suit, and every single mission can be done that way. And, like, not with... You don't get the silent assassin rating because somebody finds a body, but that game was much less... it didn't feel like it was judging you so much for that. Because it would give you, like, a different... It would characterize your performance no matter how you did it. So if you killed everyone, you'd be called a psychopath. And I think there was even like a special word for the sniper rifle approach, like they called you a button man or something. And it was full of stuff like that. Like there was particular like characterizations you could get for doing certain things.
So it would sort of inherently kind of support that. Yeah. Yeah, I always wonder sort of about the ways I used to play the games that I kind of play the follow-ups for now, where I remember being able to play RTSs kind of particularly RTSs kind of in a much more open and enjoyed it in a way that I used to enjoy much more than now. And now I kind of, I don't know, I don't feel the same.
Do you feel now that you have to win and just play the most efficient way, or?
I feel less patient about learning how to play well.
Right.
And I think that's a sort of objective. That's a sort of result of time. I think I just don't have much free time anymore, and but also I don't know. I don't know whether the games now, there are so many more options. I don't know whether this plays true to Blood Money versus the new Hitman, where whether the levels are objectively more feature filled, larger, with more options. I don't know, but I tend to feel I definitely felt pretty paralyzed in Hitman 1 2016 in a way that I hadn't in the past. But but there's so many other factors. Available time and so on and so on and so on.
In theory, that's what the opportunities and mission stories are supposed to fix, right? They just sort of tell you, go here and do this. And those are...
But they're, as you were saying last week, like they are very unsatisfying. You feel, okay, well, I didn't really have any impact on any of that then.
Yeah, I wish they would just, like, clues. And I know you can control how much of them they tell you. But my problem is not with how they present it to you. It's with the thing itself. It's like, if you follow these steps, they get absurd in Santa Fortuna. I haven't tried them all on other levels, but it's every single one of them leads to the target just suddenly declaring, hey, bodyguards, all leave. Like, you're getting a tattoo, and he asks, not only does he ask his bodyguard to leave, but he asks his wife to leave, who is the person he's getting a tattoo of. The tattoo artist kind of needs the reference, right? And he insists that she leaves. Everyone who could possibly see him kill me, please leave. Please just look away for 30 seconds. Like, they're so absurdly, because there must have been some concern that they wouldn't be worth it. Like, it's a lot of effort to go to set these things up. They're very elaborate. And so it has to be that without them, it's very, very difficult to kill them. They always have 2 bodyguards with them at all times and that kind of thing, which is the part I don't like. And with them, they're almost comically easy. It's just like, let's make sure that nobody is seeing you at all from any angle. And yeah, without a lot of narrative justification sometimes. There are... one of them is you've got this old guy who's like their drug cooker. He's got a machine he's really excited about, and the way to kill him is you fix the machine. And when he sees the machine is working, he's like, everybody get out, because you can see I don't need any of you because this machine is working so well. I definitely don't need anyone to look at me or any guards of any kind because of the machine, it's so good.
Just a series of very loose reasons why someone might be alone.
There are some, there's one with a love letter, and it makes sense she wants to be alone to read that. Although she doesn't mind if you're there, by the way. As long as the only person here is the assassin, that's fine.
That's interesting that they kind of want to, because the emblematic deaths in Hitman are always the sort of standing in, engineering it so they're standing underneath the chandelier style kind of deaths, not they're alone so you can stab them deaths. Yeah,
they go big on these too. They have loads of custom dialogue for it, and all of the dialogue leading up to it is all double entendre about how they're going to be killed, to the point of absurdity. But I was looking at there's a sort of impressions thread on Reddit of people just saying what they thought of it. It's all very positive, and quite a few people specifically say, there is nothing funnier than when you're going to kill someone and they're saying stuff that can be interpreted as you're going to kill them. Really? Okay, well, I guess it's making someone happy. Fine. I would have said there's nothing weaker. But... yeah. So what I was going to say was, instead of those, I wish that they were just clues. Because there was one that I didn't find till very late in Santa Fortuna where it's just the wife of somebody who works on the submarine they're building in the cave system is at a food vendor, and she's just recounting that her husband got injured in this accident recently, and she can't really talk about, or he won't really tell her what it was about, but... it's obvious that this is an interesting lead. And if the clue was just go here and listen to that conversation, and then it just left you, I was already thinking, I want to follow this person and see where they go, because it's her husband, so he probably lives at where she lives, and she's probably going home now after this shop, so I can figure that out. But then, of course, the mission story is go here, or follow her to her house, and you do, and that's, it's the right thing to do. Just because it told me to do it, suddenly
all the magic had gone out of it.
And it doesn't stop there, obviously. Then his clothes are just lying right there, and you just put them on, and then you just tells you exactly where to go. And you kind of I want half the puzzle. I don't want the whole thing just literally set up for me. And it's kind of, it's a problem because everything is so high security all the time that in order to make these opportunities worthwhile, that when you get there has to be some kind of huge crutch that helps you do it, because otherwise it wouldn't be helpful. Getting into someone's underground lair, or getting into their bunker, or getting into their office, or getting into the most private parts of their life still isn't useful in this game because they still have guards with them. I remember in Paris, one of your targets has 3 bodyguards with her at all times. Mm-hmm. And the time when she goes to her bedroom, if you can get in there, if you can figure out a way without these opportunities to get into her bedroom, now there's only one guard and one guard in the immediate next room looking the other way. It's like that's the lowest you can get. It's like 2 guards in her immediate vicinity.
So you feel like therefore they're forcing a situation where there's some sort of arbitrary sort of slightly forced sort of situation.
Yeah, that's why they keep having to have these lines about everybody leave me now. I need to be alone with this fact or idea, or
I'm having a tattoo done.
Yeah, and then it means that nothing else works. Like, or you can do other things, but they're always messy. Or you've got to spend endless time distracting people with coins, which is it's actually amazing. And I don't want to brag on it too much because, as I say, I'm enjoying it now. But it's just funny that it makes assassination so uncool. Like, it's about killing people, which is like the like a very morally unsavory thing, but like has glamour and coolness to it inherently. But they make it about throwing coins to make someone slightly turn to the left. And it's just really like slow to do it correctly, and you've got to be so like fastidious and careful and don't hurt anybody. And there are things like with the tools. Like shooting someone with a silenced pistol in Hitman feels really good. Like it's really well made shooting. And throwing knives at people is really cool. And there's so many, you can do stuff where like you walk into a room and you throw a knife into one guy and shoot the other guy and then hide behind the wall and throw a brick at this guy as he comes round. And then like all that stuff works, but then the game just says, no, you did it wrong. It's a bad thing. Don't do that. Should we do questions?
Yeah, let's do some questions.
Good. I have them here. Our first question is from Henry, who writes, Dear Crates, Crows, Ands and Bars, which minigame or game mechanic would deserve to be a standalone title? Personally, I would love to play the hacking minigame from Paradroid without all the robot getting lost in spaceship stuff in between. I like the base building in XCOM without all the fighting, and Gears of War's quick reload mechanic would make an excellent game about reloading guns. Keep potting those casts, Henry. The quick load mechanic would definitely not make it. Just hitting F9 again and again.
Wait for the bar to fill. Oh, press now.
Yeah, so I also don't really agree that the active reload thing would be sufficient for a game in and of itself.
Did you play Paradroid?
No.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember because it was like I remember there were 2 sides and you were balancing 2 sides of a thing with numbers. It was smart. It was Paradroid was amazing.
The base building in XCOM is an interesting one because I think of it as a negative of that game, but that's because decisions you make there without foreknowledge can fuck you in the tactical game. And if you took that out, I wonder if that would be fun.
Yeah, it's a bit of definition of minigame. Is it something that is entirely separate and something that but then actually they're all, any hacking game is, if you succeed, it means you get into the safe.
Yeah. So my vote for this would be the hacking minigame from Deus Ex Human Revolution and Mankind Divided, where it's a network of nodes, and each one, you start from a certain entry point and you can capture an adjacent node, and each one has a percentage chance of detection. But you have various tools to, like, one tool that you have limited uses of can just capture the node for free and doesn't risk detection. When you are detected, the trace starts from the enemy end of the network and moves out along the lines. And when it gets to a node that you've captured, it takes it longer to take it over before it can get to you. And you can also fortify your node so that when it gets there, it's way slower for it to capture it. And I found that fun in itself, and I also really appreciated that it was a whole kind of branch of your skill tree that you could put points into to upgrade in various ways. You could either increase your hacking stealth, which meant that you had a lower chance of detection when you took these nodes, or you could boost your fortify skill. So when you fortified nodes, it had a much bigger effect on how long it took the enemy to trace you. And you could also upgrade your ability to know what was in the future nodes that you're going to get to.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's quite an impressive feat to create that much upgradability into a game that's just a mini game, like the Pipe Mania or Pipe Dream.
I was thinking, would you like to update your Pipe Mania skills? Nope.
That, it filled a slot, but it didn't have a lot of extensibility or that kind of thing.
Yeah, I was thinking about I was sort of thinking about Yakuza. Yakuza 0 is available on PC at the moment, and Yakuza is filled with mini games. Like you can go to like a baseball range and just hit baseballs if you like. There's a really good dancing mini game, which is just ace. There's a singing mini game, which is like just a rhythm game. The dancing game is as well, obviously. There is a really good property management game where you're choosing agents and sending them out to kind of provide a bit of muscle to get your rent in and then to improve the property so you can get more money in. There is a game where you are running a hostess bar where you're kind of looking after tables, hiring hostesses to go to work for you, dealing with errant customers, and generally kind of making everything move really, really kind of like smoothly. So basically, Yakuza is a walking game and a punching game. Walking and punching game, that's what it basically is. But then with mini games kind of filling up all of the bits around them.
Actually, like having never played a Yakuza game, I hear it talked about a lot, and I see screenshots and GIFs, and I still have no sense of it. I can't imagine what this game is.
You would hate it, Tom. Like you basically spend all your time watching cutscenes and walking to the next place to listen to the next cutscene, and then doing some punching. So good though, so good. But then actually I started thinking about the Assassin's Creed. I think it was the one in 4 Black Flag, where you are sending out your ships to ports and getting kind of booty and stuff back again.
Like the hands-off version of
it was like totally hands-off, and I liked it. It was just all endorphin kind of serving, really. It was just like, I got a little thing, and I came back to it, and I earned stuff, and and I was thinking, could you do that side of the game? And like, I'm sure there are lots of games like it. That basically is a clicker game, more or less, but it could only work in the context of that game, like because you have to go down to the ship, the captain's quarters, to do it at the big table. It was like enough ceremony and enough kind of money coming into the game that you could buy. Yeah, I think that's new outfits and whatever.
That's a thing you can't discount feedback with a mini game, is that often one of the reasons it's fun is because you know what you're going to get out of it at the end, and that's going to have some broader significance in a different game, and that's a hard thing to achieve in isolation. It's quite hard to like make something that's fun enough in itself that winning within a game is usually not. It doesn't lead to any further rewards. It's just you won it. Well done.
Yeah, and that's the Paradroid thing. Like the Paradroid hacking game, the meaning for it was this, was being able to be successful so that the main game would go smoothly. Yeah.
I remember doing a lot of scanning in Mass Effect. Is it 3 where you launch the probes?
Oh yeah. I think it might be 2. I'm not sure. Yeah.
A lot of probing. Hard to say if that was a mini game or just a kind of chore. I wanted to mention the Deus Ex one in particular now because it was recently featured in Rock Paper Shotgun's list of the worst hacking mini games ever. And I take issue with that. That is, among the field of hacking games, that is one of the best. And actually, in fairness, I don't know if this is fairness or not, but Alec, who wrote the article, is quite positive about it in the text of that. But still, his problem, as I understand it, is that it's not high-tech enough. Like, if you're this cyber droid with sword elbows, then you should be doing something cooler than this to hack. But he only has positive things to say about the actual experience of hacking.
Has he played System Shock, where you had to, like the original, the first System Shock, where you had to go into this kind of float around a 3D world?
Oh right, yeah, the whole cyber world.
Come on, if that's the alternative, I'm going back to the unsophisticated.
System Shock 2 actually had something a lot like Human Revolutions, where it was a network of nodes and you had a chance of detection with each one. But there wasn't as much to it. It was much more rudimentary, and it was just chance. Really, it's just like, I fucked up. I'll load a save.
They had I noticed in that article as well. They had the Fallout one where you're doing the kind of the mastermind style password matching.
Yeah, I quite like that.
I think I liked the idea of it, and then hated it every time I had to do it.
Was that the one where it's like it tells you how many letters you got right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you kind of go, there are no words in there that have one O and no L's.
I think that's one where I liked it for its apparent authenticity. It felt like something you might be doing as a hacker. It's like reaming through like data that might be garbage or it might be meaningful, and you got to spot something just through pattern recognition.
Yeah, yeah. I like the theming of it, but not the process. But then that would probably be the same for hacking itself. So yeah. That's good.
Did you ever do that and then realise the thing you just hacked was the turret that you destroyed 5 minutes ago? If that was still alive, that would be on my side now. Also, shout out to Shenzhen.io for having Shenzhen Solitaire in it, which actually is a separate game. Like, it was good enough that they released it as a separate game, and I've played that 100 times. No, I've won that 100 times, so I played it probably more than that. And I've not played Shenzhen.io much at all. Apparently, I've never played Free Cell, and apparently it's quite similar to Free Cell, so maybe it doesn't deserve as much credit as I thought, but it is very good.
I think I idly tried Free Cell once on Windows 95, whatever.
Did you try the solitaire type game in Opus Magnum?
A little bit, not much.
Yeah, I never really got the hang of that.
No.
I was able to like get through it. I was never stuck on one, but I didn't totally feel like I had it figured out.
I think I was just in the mood where I wanted to try and beat your score.
See, that's a game where the leaderboards are really good. Like,
not a time for solitaire.
In fact, that's actually a really good analogy for like what I want from the leaderboards in Hitman is just have multiple metrics. Just like there's one for how silent you were, and there's one for how many challenges you got, and there's one for how inventive you were, or yeah. If I choose to like snipe everybody, I want to be compared against other people who try to snipe everybody.
But then that high drama playthrough where you were a psychopath, in the middle, and you started off very silent, and you ended up, doing another play style. Are there only two play styles? What play styles are there?
There's. I mean, it is impossible to capture all of the nuance and interestingness of a playthrough of all the things you can do in Hitman. Because, like, the thing where I told Sean Bean I'd throw a knife in his head, and then I did throw a knife in his head. I understand why they can't track that specifically. But
the dramatic irony.
Yeah, come on. Where's my dramatic irony leaderboard? I was the most dramatically ironic of all my friends by at least 50, maybe 100. Poetic justice leaderboards. Schadenfreude leaderboards.
Got another question?
Yes.
Thanks for that, Henry.
David says, "Hey gang, I was just now telling my girlfriend Charlotte about the amusing anecdote from last week's pod where Pip described a TV show as the one about the guy who owns a boat, when Charlotte interjected, Dexter?" Amazed and confused, David.
Well, it just shows that if enough people listen, somebody is going to get it.
I'll admit to not being 100% clear on my recollection of last week's episode, although I was there. This rings a bell. I guess that question was Pip actually did mean Dexter, right? And
she did.
Was she by any chance criticised for this not being the most specific description of Dexter?
She was.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
that all makes sense.
We were confused as to what on earth she was on about.
He does have a boat. He uses it a lot in that show.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Simus writes, "Hello, Great and Growbar. I really enjoyed your discussion of Artifact's business model in the last episode. Perhaps I can provide another way to look at it. I think most players are able to understand the manipulative and exploitative nature of some business models, but in order to accept them, some mental self-justification acrobatics have to be performed. In most free-to-play games, you can tell yourself your purchase is funding the game for others who cannot afford playing. Or perhaps the thing you're actually buying is the time it would take you to get the same stuff without paying. Artifact provides none of these mental outs for the player, and that's why I think its business model has had some harsh reception. Have you ever caught yourself over-justifying your game spending? Love the pods, Simus. I haven't found myself over-justifying game spending, but that was an interesting take on it. And it's something that I think my perception of Valve's various public fuck-ups in the last sort of 5 to 10 years, they often caught a lot of flack, and a lot of it comes from no one has any sympathy for them. Like, people don't assume the best of them anymore. Like, there was a time when, when Valve just released Half-Life 1, and probably when they released Half-Life 2 as well, when they were so well loved that you gave them the benefit of the doubt when they tried something and it didn't quite work out. It'd be like, oh, I'm sure they were genuinely trying to make something good. And now the perception of them is they're trying to make money, and everything is seen through that lens. And in this case, it seems pretty justifiable to see it through that lens, because it sure does seem like a model that's very monopolistic, or what's the word? Materialistic. Like just trying to get money out of you, rather than being designed for fun. Chris did have some thoughts on this. He's not here, but he did say some things about this in the Discord, which maybe I'll read for you if I can find them in a reasonable time frame.
I mean, I definitely recognise what Simon was saying about setting up a little kind of justification for your financial commitment to a game, because I think even in the standard of buying a game, you've sort of, when you make that commitment, you say, well, this, I'm not going to go. I remember when, just after I left university, I was at a very low paying job, and I would think, okay, I could buy this £40 game, but it will mean that I won't go out and therefore spend money on beer, and it will save me money in the long run. I definitely did all that kind of thing. And then since free to play, I've wanted to buy stuff so the developer would get money. Yeah. Definitely. That's gone for DLC and things like that as well. That
I find doesn't happen so much on PC, but on mobile, I'm so ready to pay the fixed fee to
get rid of the ads and whatnot.
Yeah, but as a way to support the developer. Yeah. Like, often the ads aren't bothering me, or whatever it is, I get some honey in Alpha Bear or whatever, and I don't really need the honey, but I want to say, I like this game. Yeah. I shouldn't have it for free. I should pay you something, but only if it's like the $5 and you get everything, or just whatever the price is. But Alpha Bear 2 doesn't have that, and it has I don't know, I pay this fixed sum and then I get an increased rate of honey or something, and it's suddenly I don't feel like I'm supporting the developer by buying this. I am technically, but it feels like this is a purchase that's still designed to get more money out of me.
Yeah, or that you're using money to upset the balance of the game as well. Yeah. Like, I think I prefer the tips jar approach, but really I would just like to get rid of the adverts and give the money. And I think that it's give the money first, and the jar, the getting rid of the ads is like a nice little sort of. Yeah. It's like a little, you're in the shop, you've given the nice friendly smile to the shopkeeper, and they've kind of given you a little wink back, and that's the adverts.
Do you ever get a wink? I don't get a wink.
It depends on the smile, Tom.
I just don't have that kind of smile in my repertoire, I think.
But yeah, like getting something that kind of accelerates sort of things. I don't know. It's like,
yeah, it still feels like you're gaming me. It feels like
I want you just to give me the game that you wanted to give me.
Yeah, yeah. They came up with the Assassin's Creed, where there was a purchasable thing that gave you 50% faster XP gain forever, and it was actually surprising in practice how little disruption that caused, because I bought it and Chris didn't, and we were both 100% happy with our experiences. We both thought, this seems like about the right rate. And I don't know if that's because we have radically different rates that we expect, or maybe it doesn't end up making as big a difference as we imagined, or
maybe they increased the XP that you required to go up for level by 50%.
God. I wonder if you can do that and not get arrested.
There was a little bit about that in I can't remember exactly what it was, and maybe people will remember this properly, but I think there was something in Destiny where there was some kind of boost, but quietly underneath it, to balance things out, other things were sort of heightened, sort of. But I can't remember. And it was a big old brouhaha about it, obviously, and because it's kind of mad, isn't it? All of that stuff. Particularly as XP. I don't know. I'm still deeply uncomfortable with the idea that you're earning XP in Assassin's Creed. It just makes no sense.
Yeah. So Chris said on the subject of Artifact, a bit of a follow-up on Artifact. I can't do a Chris impression. A bit of a follow-up on Artifact chat because I'm ill and therefore unlikely to pod this week. They just launched the marketplace for common, uncommon cards, and the interface is really nice. Super easy to create a sell-buy basket, which I assume is a thing, out of your spares, and very clear what spares are, what are spares and what aren't. On the buy tab, there's a way to filter cards that you don't have, and having just instantly sold a bunch of my duplicates, I then immediately bought every single uncommon card, every single common/uncommon card I was missing with a quid left over. We'll see how the prices for rare cards go, but an expensive common card seems to be about 25p. Have to say, this process took 5 minutes from start to finish, and I like it a lot more than breaking things down into dust and crafting with them. Artifact, by the way, will be out by the time it's out as we record this, in fact. So you can play it now. you can have your own opinion.
Immerse yourself in this grubby business.
Yep.
Or not grubby business.
I probably won't. If there is ever a single player aspect, then I will. If there's like an AI, even if it's just like a practice AI.
There is. Definitely is. Yeah. Okay. He mentioned. Yeah, Chris mentioned it. Yeah, like that you can choose to play against other players or you can play against AI.
Okay.
Sorry, no escape.
Fuck. I spoke too soon. I will perhaps play this someday. Andrew writes, Dear Crate and Crowbar, your recent discussion of bad games made up for media made me think of the much rarer beast, the game that's made up for media that you'd like to play. Do you know of any? Can books, films, whatever, really present a novel game idea realistically, as player agency is always going to be more than is achievable? I quite liked the side-scroller in Knuckleball, a horror thriller film take on Home Alone, and the VR MMO in the trashy wish fulfillment novel Life Reset. Thanks, Andrew. And you keep mentioning enjoying D&D podcasts. Which ones? I think most of us have listened to The Adventure Zone a lot, and I am currently enjoying Critical Role a lot, which is the one with all the voice actors. And yeah, that's extraordinarily long. I'm watching it as a YouTube series, and it might be the longest audiovisual thing I've ever consumed of any kind. And I'm just watching season 2. And I think it's going to be like sort of over 100 hours.
How are you watching it? Are you watching it while doing other things? Or?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, usually like I'll play something on my iPad while it's playing on my laptop, or it's good while like sketching UI ideas and things like that. And also like when I go to bed, it's quite nice to have something on that's kind of infinite. It's effectively infinite. And one of the amazing things about it is it has full closed captionings throughout that's like hand done by the community. There's a group of them who write all of the dialogue, and it's like 6 people talking over each other. This is difficult to do. To the other question, I always liked the descriptions of the game in Player of Games by Ian M. Banks. It's about a person from the culture, which is the sort of, I don't know, the big intergalactic society that's very advanced and very liberal, who is tasked with kind of making contact with a culture on a planet that is very based around a game they all play, and it's sort of chess-like in some respects, but way more complex and advanced. And the concept is that this game in some way mirrors the way they run their society. So when like you can become leader of this world by winning this game. And the idea is the game is a good enough representation of what it is like to really run a nation, that if your strategy in the game works, you'll probably be a good leader. And the book did a very good job of describing people's strategies in that game in the abstract without really going through the rules of the game and specific moves and whatever, in a way that I, as someone who plays a lot of games, found convincing. Like it was a lot to ask that, like, oh, the way he's playing it actually mirrors the way that they run their society, and the way I'm playing it mirrors the way culture runs their society. But I can kind of buy it. Like I've been playing a lot of Race for the Galaxy, which is the parallels between what you're doing in the game and running a galaxy is pretty explicit, because that's exactly what you're doing in the game. But the way that the mechanics can mirror different sort of principles for running a civilization, and for this is huge scale in Race of the Galaxy. Like every card you put down is a planet. It's really clever how what you end up doing for mechanical reasons mirrors what you might end up doing in fiction for thematic reasons. So, like, the main dichotomy is between, do you want to place like a world, if it's a cost 3 world, you have to put the world down and then 3 other cards, just discard them. That's the price you pay. And most of the worlds that you place those that way, most of the good ones are production worlds, which when the produce phase happens, you produce a good on them. And that good can later be consumed, but not this turn. It'll have to be a future turn that you then choose the consume option, and then you get it. And that can pay off, but it's a slow burn, and it's difficult, and it's like you have to. It's a lot of work, and the whole game is a race. So you might at any time be just beaten by someone who's way faster, or has some cheaper strategy. And one of the other ways to play is like there are windfall worlds, which are ones that can't produce anything, but they come with a good already. So it's faster to sell that. Or to consume it in some way. And there's a semi-sustainable thing you can do where every world you put down, you just sell the good on it instead of consuming it, which means you get no victory points, but you get a shitload of cards. The cards might include another windfall world, which you then place down and you sell that good. And it's kind of like, it's actually not sustainable, but it's like, it's a cheap and dirty way of burning through a bunch of stuff. So you're technically paying the price for these things, but you're not really getting anything out of them long term. You're building a kind of unsustainable society. But if you do it fast enough, you beat everyone else. And then military is everything that every world and every development that gives you military, it just adds to this total, and that's just your military. And anything that's that or below, you just get to place for free. And so because you're not doing the hard work of building a society, you're just taking it. Just, oh, there's a cool society here. Some of them are production worlds, most of them aren't. Usually military worlds are not production worlds because you've kind of destroyed them.
You've taken the production.
But it's free. You just fucking have them. It's just, oh, a 5 cost military world, I have 5 military, I just get it. And that's worth 4 victory points or something. And that's something that the production people have to work way harder to get. But the production thing, if you put in the work and you set up this sustainable society where everything is, you only consuming the things you produce, once it gets going, it's way more powerful than everything else. You produce an incredible amount of victory points every turn without being dependent on what new cards you get. So it's less chance-based. And it's really interesting how all those things are viable. That's the cool thing about the game. It's like I've done all of those things successfully, and each round, each time I play it, I'm thinking which one of those is going to serve me best this time. And it's cool how they map onto different things. There's also like stuff like there's rebel worlds and imperial worlds, and certain kinds of rebel worlds, if you have any imperial worlds in your empire, you'll get negative military from them instead of positive military. And other things like the imperial worlds will benefit from the rebel worlds because they've conquered them and like
have learned off it. They've kind of got experience. And
then there's one route to victory that's like the Rebel Alliance and some related cards are all about getting rebel worlds, which are almost always military, but you get them through a pay for military power, which is like negotiation. It's like a hostile world, but you're going to broker peace with them. And that does cost you cards, but sometimes through certain means it can cost you less cards than it would normally. And you don't need the military at all. And there's even like a card that rewards you for having negative military. So if you're brokering peace, you can have the military worlds and have negative military and be rewarded for the negative military. And that gets you prestige because it looks good. Like it's more honorable than just conquering everything. So yeah, that makes it, for me, that's a good real embodiment of what Player of Games was kind of getting at, of like a game where the way you run your society can be reflected in the mechanics of the game.
Yeah. It's funny, the best games in media are ones where they aren't very specific about the game. As soon as you start showing something, then, the specifics of it all kind of, the way they diverge from what games really are, that kind of really breaks it. I think it was it's probably the sort of the virtual worlds in stuff like Snow Crash, and where it's such a fully realized idea of what it might be if there was a separate world, virtual world running on top of things, which is kind of, it's weird to say that because it's such an old hat idea now, but it did feel quite sort of and kind of an old hat idea, and also really fucking cheesy now. Like now that we can do virtual worlds, and it all come a bit little more than a little wanting, kind of like, we all just want to do it on a screen, and not put a headset on and not be subsumed into it. Like, but taken in the spirit and in the culture that those works were written, I like the non-specific nature of I can't remember the Snow Crash world anyway, but it's like, this be anyone, do anything kind of environment, which it's Second funny. Life just sort of kicked to the curb really, and it's like oh it's all just sex dungeons.
What strikes me is the difference between most of these sci-fi envisionings of the game that we'll all be in and real life is that, so far at least, it's never been the case that like one game is just the fact that there would just be one game that we all go into. Like, that they're all fixated on this idea that we'll all have a virtual identity in a virtual world. There's just one virtual world, and we have a persistent single identity in it, and you can change it and you can restyle yourself or whatever. But the idea is like, a company would be running this, so one company would just be running the whole internet essentially, or whatever it is. And so far, fortunately, that is not the case. It's kind of
I don't know, man. It's like, it's not, I mean, obviously nobody envisaged that would, the whole role would be taken by social media, and that Facebook, there'd be one company dominating it, Facebook, and then it would look really fucking kind of low tech and clunky, and not have any of the sexiness of the kind of the virtual reality worlds that kind of
Facebook
promised.
wants it to be VR, doesn't it?
Yeah, but look at those videos.
It was horrific.
It was meant to be.
But I find that reassuring that they're so bad at it. They're not going to take over the world for the VR thing, because it's garbage. Even their current thing is garbage.
They're just content with changing governments and votes and things instead.
Yeah. They control the world to a scary extent, but they're not. They aren't the world yet. That is all the questions we have time for this week. You can send us questions at questions@crateandcrowbar.com. You can follow us on Twitter at Crate and Crowbar. You can back us on Patreon, which many people do, and thank you to those people, which is patreon.com/crateandcrowbar. We have a YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/crateandcrowbar. The Discord, where you can read exciting statements like Chris's from earlier. If you want to see that before it's read on the podcast by me, then you can find the link to that on crateandcrowbar.com. I think it's possible to make like a readable link to a Discord, but we haven't done that.
Readoutable, yeah.
But you're welcome to join us there. I hang out a lot on the Roguelikes channel there and talk about either Spelunky or Heat Signature, frankly. And are there any other things? There's our own personal Twitters. Is there anything before that?
I think, what would Chris be saying now? Is he frowning at us now? I think you covered it. That was really slick.
Outro. WWCTO. Okay, so I am Pentadact on Twitter, PENTADECT.
And I am Rotational on Twitter, RTO. Oh, Christ, that was bad.
People know
ROTATIONAL.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. Everybody. I
guess I stop now.
Yeah.